first decade of the new millennium saw waves of massive and at times disorientating change. Bewildering new words and phrases sprang up, trying to make sense of it all. It was a decade of surprising connections, when what was really happening was often not as it appeared. The story of the noughties is more than just the history of the last 10 years. It tells us where the 21st century itself is heading. In 2010, we already have a sense of the forces shaping Britain in our still new century. Some have been heavily discussed. Others haven't. We begin this series with the most significant split to have emerged in our society in the last 10 years.
Age is to the 21st century what social class was to the 20th century. It's one of the major fault lines in our society.
Different generations became less aware of each other. Older people became more frightened of younger people became less appreciative of older people.
We had a situation where everybody wanted to be young, but the only people who could afford the lifestyle of the young were the old.
Adults and young people are probably more divided now than they ever were in the past, partly because of the empowerment of young people and the role that youth culture has in dominating society.
People say, well, in the 1950s, you know, there was a transition. You went from having short trousers to wearing a suit, and you were at work and you were an adult, or you went down the pit and you became an adult, and there was an absolute cut-off point. There was none of this teen stuff. Now, there's still a period of being a child, authentically a child, and then at the age of sexual maturity, everybody's unloosed not into adulthood, but to kidulthood. You have the idea of this kind of perpetual childhood.
In the noughties, kidulthood was open to almost everyone. No longer did you have to be young to act young. In the early 2000s, the biggest club in Britain was school disco.
You have men and women in their mid-30s, even into their 40s, who are living the lifestyle that one would normally have presumed was that of a teenager or 20-year-old.
We looked recently at the spread of toys around the world, and the really interesting thing was that most of the toys weren't for children. They were actually toys for adults. And so the bulk of the world toy market, in terms of cash at least, isn't for toys being consumed by children anymore.
The whole kidult accessory kit included a micro-scooter or mountain bike, a pair of trainers, 3/4 length trousers, t-shirts with carefully chosen pop culture references, an iPod, a game console, and Kidlit in your man bag.
You've got used to playing, if you're used to going out, you've got used to having recreational time, and if you've got money, then why not have toys? Why not take more holidays? Why not carry on behaving like you might have behaved when you're 18, 19 or 20?